We're going to keep it pretty short today, right, Mel? We have some important things to go over and a few key reminders that we wanted to share with you. Especially now, I think it's really important because I see a lot of people talking about this, a lot of people in the marketing industry talking about this online, and clients too, but we really want to talk about awareness and how to facilitate some of that content that helps spread awareness and make a greater impact for your business. But before we get into the focus for today, let's talk about what is happening with social media. There's a lot going on. I actually didn't include everything that I found, but I wanted to include some of the important stuff and hear what your thoughts are on some of these too, Mel. So Meta is working with an industry partners on some common technical standards for identifying AI content, including video and audio. And I think this is really important for ethical reasons, for privacy reasons. It's important that we keep in mind how we're using AI, right? And I'm sure that that's the intent. I hope that's the intent with Meta. They're trying to make it a little bit more transparent so people know when they're looking at AI content. What are your thoughts on that, Mel?
Yeah, I like it actually because it's going to, AI is getting really advanced and it's going to get to a point where you don't know if I'm speaking or if AI is speaking. And on the other side, if I were creating the content, which I am, if I were creating the content though, I wouldn't care if it's identified as AI. Like I don't mind having maybe an avatar speak because the client or the audience is getting the same information, whether I was saying it or my avatar was saying it, etc. So I really don't mind it as a creator on the platform, but as a consumer on the platform, I like it.
Absolutely. That's a great point of view too. It's a great way to generate content that's still valuable. It's nice variety, very fresh. I love the transparency. Instagram. So now you can edit messages up to 15 minutes after sending. So there is still a window. I would still be careful what messages you're sending to people. But you can edit your messages. I think that's really great. You know, if you're like me and you hate typing with just your thumbs on your phone, editing is really helpful. But for any of us that want to just have a little bit more clarity in our direct messaging, I think that's a great feature that they're adding. So just wanted to update you on that. They're also working on commenting for specific carousel photos. So carousel photos are still a thing. I think that's a good indication that we should still continue to post carousels. And when you're swiping through the photos, my understanding is that we should be able to comment on the individual photo itself. So if you're going through a bunch of photos from, I don't know, your friend's wedding, you can comment on the photo that you're in versus the photo that you're not in.
I like it.
Yeah, very cool. I mean, I would comment on all the photos, but exciting new update. And then the other thing, we were talking about hashtags on our last webinar and how that's changed. Hashtags have changed. The usage really has changed. I believe that they were used to help train the algorithms on what kind of content we're posting and the category. And now Instagram is looking to simplify our search capabilities with hashtags as well. So my takeaway from that is it's important to keep in mind that the platforms are always changing. It's our job to stay updated, keep you all updated, and find new ways of using them. We certainly don't want to be stuck in the past trying to use the platform in the old manner, because that's not going to be the functionality of them overall. So we'll stay tuned to what's going on there. Nothing has been formalized or finalized that I've seen, but it's important to be aware that search capabilities are changing. Even more important, I think, and I'm curious your thoughts, Mel, but SEO, that applies to the captions, the content, the visual content, not just the hashtags. So what's some advice that you might give to folks there?
Ooh, one thing that you might see some creators do is try and quote unquote trick the algorithm. And you can't trick the algorithm with keywords that you're trying to hide in, a post or a story, etc. There's no point in going so deep to try and trick the algorithm. It already knows what's happening. It already knows what you're trying to do. So just be true to your content and make sure that what you're talking about is targeted to the audience that you want. and that the caption also matches that. That's really it. That's how you're going to come up in those searches. The AI is smart enough to see that all of these hashtags, or all of these extra words that you put into your caption with no sentence around it is just trying to trick it.
I like that. Be transparent, no tricks.
Yes.
LinkedIn. Okay, this is interesting. Would not have seen this coming necessarily, but they're adding puzzle games to the platform. So I've heard, so has been announced. We'll see what that looks like. I like polls on LinkedIn. I think it's great to get some insight into what other people are thinking or their industry, what's trending. I don't know what the games will be.
I don't know. I know there's an emoji game on Instagram DMs too. That's new, but I don't know where LinkedIn is going with that. I would have liked them to finally be more video friendly than gaming, but we'll put that in the recommendation box.
Yes, for sure. LinkedIn, if you're listening, more video content would be great. However, a key takeaway here, and you mentioned Instagram, Mel, I think it's important to remember what social media is for. It's for engaging, it's for socializing, having conversations, and you can have fun there too. It's also for entertainment. So LinkedIn might be going down that route, and maybe we can have some more fun there too. We'll see. They're also adding DM, so direct message options for company pages. So if you have a company page, this means that you can actually get direct communication from the people following your page. I think that's a great idea. I think it's a little behind the times. I'm actually surprised that that's not been a rollout feature they've rolled out sooner. It's certainly something that Facebook has integrated way early on when pages came into existence. And so I'm kind of surprised they're behind on that, but happy to have it all the same and use it and leverage it for that greater engagement and connection overall.
Mm-hmm.
All right, now back to AI again. YouTube is also very aware of the need for that transparency, and they're also having altered content requirements. So users have to answer whether their content has been altered or synthetic. So I think that's important too, because we have amazing technology with AI. How are we using it? Hopefully to drive value and meaning and engagement with others and have a fun variety at the same time too. We still have to use it in a way that's still ethical as well. So I'm glad to see YouTube is taking that approach. They also want us to know not to delete your YouTube videos. I think we've been saying that for a while. I know you have, Mel. I've told people don't ever delete your Instagram videos unless there's something super egregious. I'll give you an exception. But don't delete your YouTube videos because the video is tied to an audience. An audience watched that video. And if you delete that video, then you delete that connection. And that's going to be detrimental to all that great value that you've already built up on your channel. So keep that in mind. There are going to be some exceptions where you actually might need to take a video down. I would just make it private. That's what I would recommend rather than actually deleting it. I don't know, Mel, if you have any other thoughts on that.
That's actually a great idea. I was going to say just repost it with another, cover or whatever else you want. But if it's maybe not relevant, to your business anymore, then that makes sense. I'd rather make it private in that sense. That's a great recommendation.
Awesome. Yeah, really cool stuff that's happening. Actually, it feels like there's a lot more happening in the social media platforms overall. If you notice that they don't seem to be working quite right, that's because there are a lot of changes going on. A couple of us got locked out of Instagram. Instagram's been checking to make sure I'm still human. So clearly a lot of work going on behind the scenes, and we want to make sure that you're up to date on it. But if something's not working, it's probably because something cool is on the way.
The bright side, the silver lining, right?
Exactly. Now, we do want to get back to some of what we consider the basics, but really the foundation of content strategy, because at the end of the day, features or not, we want to make sure that we're driving value. You've heard us talk about that a lot in the last 5 minutes or so. So Mel, I would love for you to chat about content pillars and lead us in this conversation, because this is the foundation for how we think and strategize for our clients' content and even our instant social members' content as well. So what are your thoughts on this, and what's the why behind content pillars?
Yeah, 100%. Content pillars are really right, when you think about a pillar, it's holding up a structure, right? It's essentially the foundation. So some people call them themes or categories or content buckets. And they're really themes around the brand or the business and where your strategy kind of revolves around that. So, we kind of use content pillars to, number one, stay organized, right? We kind of it helps structure and organize the many different topics that you may want to cover. And so by categorizing it into pillars, it becomes easier to manage and kind of plan the content creation efforts. Consistency, right? Staying consistent in that brand, that's really important as well. So if you want consistency in your messaging and your branding, maybe you're a brand that doesn't do anything funny, right? So you would never post memes. So that would never go into your content bucket, for example. If you wanted a certain brand voice that's a little bit more professional in that sense. So keeping that consistency, and really it goes into who you're targeting for your audience. Remember, organic content is different than like paid media. When something's paid media and you're running it on Meta or Google, you're targeting and you're paying to target people based on information and data that they've given the different platforms, right? But if you're doing this organically, then you have to post content that is going to appeal to that audience. So by focusing on maybe certain themes, you can, appeal to younger audience, a median-aged audience, middle-aged audience. I don't want to say middle-aged because then I'd fall in that category, but an older audience, all of those different aspects, you really need to think about, the content that you're actually creating that's going to target those people. Strategy alignment, of course, part of your larger digital marketing strategy, and digital marketing falls into your larger marketing strategy. So all of that is, the alignment is really important. So again, you kind of go back to that consistency. And regardless of consistency, diversification is still really important, right? Maybe you are posting a lot of educational content, and that's great, but there's this whole other audience on Instagram or Facebook or different platforms that you may not reach if you didn't post something a little bit different that wasn't educational, right? Maybe a trending audio, etc. And then ultimately, we just talked about SEO and search visibility and how all those things are important, but if you're consistently publishing content related to certain themes or key topics, then that helps your brand establish authority on those platforms, and it would be relevant to your specific business or whatever you're kind of bringing to the table on Instagram, Facebook, all these social different platforms. So that's really the why, behind having content pillars. If you're an FMO Media client, you've seen the content pillars, you've seen the content buckets on your marketing plan. And if you are an Instant Social client, you might be seeing them on your actual trainings, right? When we talk about branding and getting started on social media at the beginning. And so, some other aspects here is how do we end up creating those content pillars? And we'll go a little bit deeper into it as well. But you want to start with understanding your audience. And it's funny, I put, who do you eventually want to reach? Because depending on where you are in your social media journey, in your digital marketing journey, you might just be getting started and create new platforms. And so then who do we want to reach? Anyone and everyone, because we want to grow the authority of your brand on that platform. It doesn't matter if you're in New York and you're reaching people in California or, in Canada, it doesn't matter. We want people following your platform and so on. And you want to start broad so that you can then narrow it down to the audience that may do business with you locally, right? Defining your content goals, brand awareness is usually the biggest content goal. At some point, turning that into leads or maybe lead generation, that's important as well. How do you turn those people into maybe clients? And once you define those goals, then you can set kind of realistic timelines as to when you can reach them. And, we recommend identifying 5 core pillars or 5 core themes, because you can get really wild and crazy and go to like 10 different buckets, but then that takes away from the consistency. So we have found that 3 to 5 core themes are really important to make sure that you have these different buckets identified. Then what we do as, FMO Media for our FMO Media clients is we will brainstorm what fills those buckets, and we'll work with you when you kind of answer your discovery questions and tell us a little bit more about your brand and your services. And we get to do all the fun creative stuff and brainstorm that and put that into the content buckets. And then what I mentioned earlier is we start broad, we'll test, and then narrow down. Maybe your first quarter, we go ahead and repost all of these different ideas. Maybe your second quarter, we continue. And then maybe third quarter, we see, hey, a lot of people are not responding to X type of posts. And so we take that out. And maybe it's just a part of the content pillar, or maybe it's the whole pillar itself. And then we take that out and we focus on what's working on your platforms. So if you're an instant social client, that's something that, we wanted to give you the mindset of what we do and how we do it, to identify the beginning, because you could just go in and post every day and not sure what works, what doesn't. But if you do this consistently, it's a lot easier to track what is working, what isn't working too. So I'm not sure, I know I ran through a lot, but is there anything else you'd add here, Rebecca, as far as kind of the how, or even the thought process behind having those content pillars?
Well, I think you touched on everything, Mel. I think I would just emphasize, you talked about awareness, and we understand how challenging it is to market a service. It's not the same as a product, right? Especially not a regular consumer product that people are needing or wanting on a regular basis. For service industry, you have to educate clients, customers on why they need your service, and that takes time. And that takes a lot of that awareness content to be able to stand out and claim attention on any of these platforms. And so we really want to be strategic for you in generating that content. And I like how you mentioned, Mel, that it doesn't just have to be focused on being educational. You can have fun with it too. And we should have fun with the content. And remembering that what is that unique value proposition that you present that will help you stay authentic to your brand. Like you were saying, Mel, we're not necessarily going to post memes for everyone, right? That might not be unique to your brand. That might not be the tone, the messaging that you want to convey. So every strategy has to be customized, and we like to think very carefully about those content pillars. But at the same time too, like you're saying, it allows us to test and experiment and collaborate together as well. And I love, we have some example pillars here that you wanted to share to kind of guide folks through, because there are folks here that maybe have their content buckets with us and with their plan already, and maybe want a little deeper understanding. But then anyone who is on the instant social platform and just learning how to use them, how would you walk us through putting those together, Mel?
100%. So these are some basic kind of content pillars that can be a little bit more customized, but we found that across professional service industries, they've all been appealing to certain audiences that we're looking to reach, right? So having educational content is huge. It's huge in establishing you as an authority in your field on those platforms. So how-to guides or how-to videos, different tips in that sense are really important in the educational bucket. So you can do, let's say if you're a lawyer, you can focus on legal education. So maybe you explain different terms, right? There's a lot of lawyer lingo that is hard to understand. And so, making it consumer facing and talking to the audience as if you were talking to your clients, that's how I would do the educational portion. Maybe industry insights, if you're in real estate, right? There's always different market trends that are happening, things that people are curious about and maybe concerned or excited about if there's changes. And so explaining what happens, in the industry is really important there too. Clients. So the client bucket can be, and I put your ideal client here because if you were talking to your ideal client, maybe not outlining your ideal client, but showing relatable stories maybe, or, talking about what type of person uses your service, Again, this is very broad, so it can be anywhere from, an HVAC service to roofing service to, again, law or real estate. But talking to your ideal client, outlining them so that the audience member can actually identify themselves. Like, hey, actually, I do that. I didn't realize that I might need a lawyer for that, right? Testimonials and case studies, all of these show your background and your experience and credibility. And again, relatable stories. Now, the local and community content bucket. I really like this because it's not exactly talking about your service, but it is adding value to your social platform so that the audience that is in that local community is paying attention to you. So maybe what's happening this weekend in, your town or your city, best restaurants, kid-friendly parks. Now, if you are attracting, maybe your audience tends to be parents, maybe there's a certain service that someone provides that their audience are parents of, whatever age. Maybe you do something talking about, different kid-friendly restaurants or parks or whatever in your area. And community resources, free community resources. The same way that you got involved in your community when you first started your business, when you registered your LLC and, got maybe your brick and mortar or took on your first client, you started making those connections in the community. And so the community in the last 10 years has transitioned to online. And so fire departments are posting, right? There's a lot of different things like that. There's actually a local gym that I was looking at possibly taking a class, and I realized that they did free workouts for fire departments, EMTs, etc. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. And I did that by looking at their social media, and I saw, what days, they're available at a local fire station actually near us, which is kind of cool. So I'm like, oh, I might consider taking the class there just because they do that. So free community resources, this local community bucket is a huge thing that I think a lot of people sometimes miss because we do get busy, promoting ourselves, but social media is what, Rebecca?
It's about engaging. It's social.
Social. It's keeping the conversation going and being a value add to the community that is online. And so tips and advice, related industry tips. I love the Did You Know series. A lot of our editors, some of our editors had come up with really cool Did You Know series about maybe debunking myths or, maybe a little known fact about your industry. That's huge too. Always and never. The ultimatums are really big too, because people will kind of hone in on that. They're like, always what? What do I always have to do? And it may not be you always have to do this, but it might be just a great tip or idea. And of course, hacks. So any type of hack, I look at cleaning hacks all the time. If something tells me how to clean, my shower, and it takes me usually 30 minutes and it'll knock it down to 10 minutes and that's a hack, like I'm in. And I don't know who that is, but if they put out valuable content like that all the time, I end up following those people. Later on, I'll look at their content and be like, I didn't realize this person, ran a dog shelter. I didn't realize this person did this. They were just giving very valuable tips that I ended up following. And then of course, trending, maybe personal, some type of bucket in that way. If you have any personal hobbies, I always talk about one of our clients in Alaska that does Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and they sent over some really cool, video and so on. And I absolutely love that. They jump on trending audio all the time. They have people in their office do it. And it's really awesome to see. And we see the engagement, not just from their family and friends, from other people that are, on their Instagram, on their Facebook, on their socials. So memes, memes can be done with video. It can also be done just, an actual meme that's maybe trending or you create it. And of course, breaking news. So this one's not always so easy to, be the first to post it on, but it is simple. If you don't overthink what you're, videoing and so on, then it can be actually really simple in editing in that sense. But these are just some example pillars that we wanted to give you so you could see, some different ideas that you could do or where you could start.
I love it, Mel. And we wanted to also talk about outcome too, really, because a lot of what I hear and what you hear, not just in industry talk, but also from clients as well. When am I going to go viral? Virality, it's top of mind, just like awareness for you. It's top of the tongue. It's on the lips of everybody who is on social because we feel like that should be the goal. Is it a goal though? No, it's an outcome of your goal. And hopefully that goal is to build awareness and to generate that connection that will help lead towards conversion, right? But we should be really careful not to make going viral the goal, mostly because you can't control it. I have heard countless times people will say, I spent 5 minutes on this one video that went viral, and I spent 2 hours editing another piece of content, and it only got 5 views. So you can't control viral, but it can feel disheartening when you only have a smaller local audience. Now, Mel, you were just talking about the importance of local, and it really is true. You want to be connected to people in the digital landscape so that you can have that physical handshake with them, right? But I can understand where that draw, that excitement about going viral comes from. So we wanted to break down briefly as we come to the end of our chat today, what the pros and the cons are from both points of view. So when it comes to going viral, I think it's important for all of us to consider that it's great for that widespread recognition. More eyeballs on your content generates a wider reach. That tells us that you are generating awareness and you're building on that great strategy and foundation we have for you. You can sometimes get rapid audience growth, but that's not always for certain and a guarantee, right? And just because you go viral and you get views doesn't mean you're also going to get the same amount of followers. So keep that in mind, but it can lead to some rapid audience growth. For a lot of folks out there who are content creators and looking for this, you can have increased monetization opportunities. And of course, there's going to be more enhanced networking opportunities because you are at the top of the pile for attention. But let's keep the cons in mind too. It is short-lived attention for a lot of people. Once you go up, you can only go down from there or struggle to maintain consistency. And that's really challenging. We know social media to be a roller coaster. Whenever changes are rolled out, it can affect your content and it can affect how we use the platform and how other people are using the platform too. So keep in mind that your performance might not be consistent, but you should be consistent. There's always going to be that pressure to replicate success. And so if you're only going after virality, you're missing the point of being found online. You also have loss of control over your content, and there's that potential for backlash and criticism because people are going to have an opinion about your opinion or your expertise, or they'll challenge your authority. And I think we all know the saying that all publicity is good publicity, but that can be pressure in and of itself too. And I have seen a lot of content creators feel the stress of having gone through that, and being ready to navigate that is also important. So keeping in mind that going viral is a great thing. It's a wonderful outcome. We have had many clients go viral. We would love that for all of our clients in the best possible scenario. But it's a great outcome. It should not be your end goal. And it doesn't necessarily tell you the whole impact of your social strategy on your business, because we want long-term, not short-term, right? Going viral is short-term. Now, if you can go viral long-term, that's even better. But that takes a lot of strategy work, a lot of content work, and it takes a lot of collaboration as well. What are some of your thoughts, Mel?
Yeah, no, 100%. And again, the people that you see go viral consistently online, you have to think about their brands, and you can compare yourself, right? It's really important to see, maybe where you want to go and where you are right now, and what are they doing differently? Are they in the videos themselves, or are they just kind of posting up I'll use real estate listings, for example. If you're asking yourself why you're not going viral with real estate listings, it's because it's local, right? But is that something that, you want to attract? So all of these questions are really good, and you can outweigh the pros or cons. And there's it's really not a bad thing to go viral. But what is the end goal? So we'll talk about that next. Go into the next slide too.
All right, so don't knock the local audience. These folks are important too. You can usually get higher engagement and loyalty. You get stronger community connection. There's a greater ability to tailor the content because you should know your local audience. And then you get a little bit more stability and sustainability in the growth there. It still takes time, but we want to make sure we are playing a long game when it comes to our marketing in general, especially with social media. You have a little bit more control over the authenticity of the content. And it's really important, keep this in mind, if you are a service business, it's really important if you're servicing local only clients too, right? If you have clients that you can only work with in your local area, you should be following that content pillar that Mel just showed us because you want to build those connections on the local level. And then the cons, well, limited audience reach. Yes, this is not always ideal. We want to have that larger reach, and that's not something that's always as easy to attain if you're focusing on strictly a local audience or if you're just starting out with your local audience. It can be a slower growth rate, which is understandable. That's where we like to recommend leveraging your advertising strategy and complementing that with your organic. You can be a little bit resource intensive when it comes to local versus non. And there is risk of market saturation. There are a lot of people competing for the same attention. So keeping that in mind, but that's why I think it's really important that you know who you are, how you help people, and what differentiates you from the rest of the folks that are out there equally trying to do the same. So what should you be doing? Well, Mel, you already said it, but summarizing it, create content that highlights your expertise. Be the digital mayor of your town, and that town can grow. It can grow online, not just your town physically. Offer insight into your field. This is really important because people are looking for that education, that understanding. They want to know best practices. They want to know advice and recommendations. They want to know what's happening behind the scenes as well as in front. Use case studies, storytelling to share your client results and experiences because you are usually in that service-based business. People are not necessarily going to trust or have confidence in the quality that they're going to get from your service. So you have to establish that trust and be able to share the outcome that your other clients have had, help other people feel more confident in working with you. And then lastly, but not least, discussing current industry topics, sharing your point of view on them is really valuable and helpful because you're leveraging a timely, relevant type of content. And I think it's really great to be on top of that. Like Mel, you were saying, you could be a little bit behind the times. So stay on top of that and keep that as one of your main content pillars. But how do we do this, right? So in wrapping up, Mel, take us home.
So here's one of the examples that we did the local content bucket, right? And so let's say, after any training that I attend or anything like any conference that I attend, I always try and take, 1 to 3 things out of it. This is a shorter one. So if this is the one thing that you take out of it, let's go ahead and make that action item for yourself. Choose something from the local content bucket. What's happening this weekend? You still have some time. You can even take a look at what's happening next weekend so that you have time to video it and send it in, right? Maybe best restaurants, best taco places, etc. Is Cinco de Mayo coming up? It is, right? I always do that. Best taco places in the town. Kid-friendly parks if you're trying to attract maybe certain parents, etc. Kid safety resources if you're a lawyer, personal injury lawyer, I know that. Or any free community resources. So choose one of these in your content bucket. Film the video on it. If something is trending, you can also film that, but you go ahead and you film something local trending or something that's happening in your town. upload it to your Google Drive folder. If you have trouble finding that, let your account manager know. If you're an Instant Social client, you can upload it to Dropbox or Google Drive on your own and send that in. Submit it to FMO Media. We'll edit it. We'll plot it in your content calendar. If it is time sensitive, you're like, no, it's happening, this weekend. I don't know if we have the turnaround time right now, Wednesday to, Friday to post, but I would film it for next weekend. We plot it in the content calendar so everybody knows what day it's going out. We get that scheduled for you. And then attract locals, collect those likes and shares, right? We have a local example right here of what that might look like for you. So this was just, I don't think this plays actually, but this was just, someone covering in Chicago. It's a real estate company that they covered what's the River North scene, because they do sell a lot of apartments in that area, but they talk about the dining scene, the social scene, etc. there. And if you don't have the time to film, or you are not going to be doing it consistently, and you can't wait for us to go ahead and, have your film day, or maybe your film day passed and this is new to you, right? An AI video example. So this was just an AI example that we had for Taylor Swift and their marketing concepts on there. But we can do this where you're like, hey, I know, for example, in Wilmington, North Carolina, there's an azalea festival that's been happening for years. And so we can take pictures from online and, kind of put that together and post it to, one of those platforms. So just some different ideas there. Again, I think the biggest, kind of thing that FMO Media does is take action for you. So whether you create the content or not, we're going to do this no matter what. But you will have a lot better traction if you do that local example and you put your face, to the brand name, and we're able to film that and edit it for you. So it's that simple, guys. It really is. That's how you attract your local audience.
Absolutely. I love it, Mel. Thank you. And thank you all for joining us and your attention today. Our next session will be April 24th. We'll have more updates and focus for you then. But in the meantime, thank you again for joining us. Have a wonderful holiday weekend and enjoy the spring weather to come.
Yes. Have a great day, all. Bye.